Hi everybody. So I'm just going to do this before I lose my nerve. My heart's pounding. um, so I wanted to tell you guys a little bit more of my complete story, and I don't even know if anybody's going to be interested in hearing it or who's going to watch this, because it's going to be longer than some of the other videos that I've ever done. But my before and after picture got posted earlier this week, and it's being shared understandably because it is quite striking, the physical changes that I've had. But it's being shared as amazing weight loss success, which it is. I've lost over 30 pounds. But I want to talk a little bit more about some of the other issues that I was having in my more complete health story. So if you're interested in learning more about that, that's what I'm going to be talking about. A lot of us are getting together in Texas, and I'll get to meet you in person, but I won't have time to tell my whole story to everybody when I'm down there, so that's what this video is going to be about. And Ryan inspires me to go live, and also Melanie, you inspired me too. You have that blog, Your Detox Journey, and I think what you said in there is very important, that we be open with each other, with everyone, about our issues and our flaws, and we all have things going on in our lives, and none of us are perfect. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm this perfect success story, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about my history. So I had a stroke when I was 38 years old. My kids were 2 and 8 at the time. It was the day before Thanksgiving, 2014. I actually had a mini stroke first. It's called a transient ischemic attack, or a TIA. And I should give a disclaimer. I'm not, this is my story. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert at anything. And this is just me giving my story. But so it was the day before Thanksgiving, 2014. I was 38 years old. I had not had a single health issue my entire life. I went my whole life not ever giving a second thought to my health. I had always been healthy. I always assumed I would be healthy. So that's where I'm coming from in this story, is that I was in perfect health, I thought. So I'm running around, happily getting ready for the holiday. The next day we were going to go to my husband's family's for Thanksgiving. I decided to dye my hair, so I'm in the shower dyeing my hair. I have my hands up above my head, and that all goes just fine. And then I get back in, 40 minutes later, like you're supposed to, and you're rinsing your hair out. So again, my arms are up above my head. And I start feeling very lightheaded, and I hurry and rinse the last of the hair dye out. And the lightheadedness gets worse, and I realize I think I'm about ready to faint. So I hurry and I was able to partially get dressed. And I raced downstairs, grabbed my phone. For some reason, I thought I needed to get outside. Don't ask me why. But I just made it to the inside of my front door, and I collapsed. The double vision was so bad that I couldn't stand up. I could barely move. I couldn't see. I did have the phone in my hand, and I called my mom first. And she admitted later that she almost hung up on me because my speech was so garbled she couldn't understand me. And I was saying, "This is Jill, I need help. This is Jill, I need help." And she didn't know it was me. So that's how bad my speech was. She finally understood what was going on and said she'd come over. I hung up. I realized this was way worse than I'm about ready to faint. This was more serious. So I called 911. They also could not really understand me. Later, when they talked to my husband, they asked if his wife, is your wife a special needs person? Because my speech was so bad. I thought I was dying. I thought I couldn't breathe, but in hindsight, it was that I couldn't swallow. So when my mom and the EMTs arrived, I was on my front porch, face down, half-dressed, drooling, not moving, with my eyes closed because the double vision again is still so bad. My speech has returned, but I still can't see, and I still can't move. The pain is incredible. I have given birth naturally with no drugs to 2 children. And the pain from this day the pain of childbirth doesn't even come close to the pain that I'm describing from when I had this mini stroke, this TIA. the EMTs and my mom show up. There's not enough education about stroke awareness in young people. You can have a stroke at any age. But even the EMTs, even the ER doctors that day, did not do some of the basic stroke awareness that they will advertise on TV and radio. You may have heard the acronym FAST. You're supposed to ask someone to smile. Make sure that they smile, evenly and that one side of their mouth is not drooped. Nobody did that. Ask someone to say a complete sentence, a simple sentence, to make sure their speech is not garbled. No one did that. Now, by that time, the EMTs, when they arrived, my speech was normal again. So nobody understood the speech aspect of it, or maybe my story would have ended up differently. They didn't have me raise my arms to see if one arm fell down. That's another big thing. So bottom line, this is my stroke awareness public service announcement for everybody. If you or anyone that you are with ever has sudden balance issues, eyesight issues, speech issues, it's not a light thing. Don't take it lightly. It's very serious. Some people will laugh it off or, haha, what's the matter? You need to get them to the emergency room. They're having a severe neurologic event. And whether or not the doctors and the EMTs take you seriously, you need to know that that is a possibility of what's going on. So speech, balance, eyesight issues that come on suddenly should be taken seriously as a severe neurologic event. They just picked me up off my front porch. They carried me to the ambulance. I even told the man that my lips were numb and that my right arm was numb. And he blew it off and said, well, you were probably laying on it funny. I'm drooling. I'm asking him for a Kleenex, and I can't even find my mouth with my hand at this point. The EMT has to guide me to wipe my mouth. They thought I was a drug user because of my age, because I was a young woman and there's not enough stroke awareness. They blew me off. I spent 5 hours in an emergency room. I didn't get any tests or any treatment. When my symptoms wore off and I could use the restroom by myself, they sent me home with medication for nausea and vertigo. I didn't know any better. My husband didn't know any better. My mom didn't know any better. So the next day was Thanksgiving, and I woke up and we went about our lives. I went to Thanksgiving with my husband's family, like we had planned. I mean, I was tired, but we laughed it off. What was that about? Ha, ha, ha. Maybe I was allergic to the hair dye. Gee, wonder what that was about. You were in the ER yesterday. Hindsight is 20/20, right? We should have known better, but we didn't. Coming back from Thanksgiving is when I had the full-blown stroke. Sorry, hang on. Coming back from Thanksgiving is when I had the full-blown stroke. And the reason I know that is because that's when it took some peripheral vision. I lost some eyesight that day. And this all could have been prevented if we had caught the mini stroke, which is what landed me in the emergency room. So coming back from Thanksgiving, it's nighttime, we're in the car driving at dark. And my husband's testing the steering of the car. And so when he jerked the car a little bit to one side, I felt this sudden extreme dizziness. And it just scared the you-know-what out of me. But I just sat really still, and I didn't move or talk until I got home. My husband put me in bed. I went to sleep. And it wasn't until the next morning that I woke up and realized that when my husband was standing next to me in bed, I couldn't see the top half of his body. And so that's when we realized something serious has happened. So that's my stroke story, and I was very lucky. It never affected my mobility. The only lasting deficit that I had physically was the vision loss, and thankfully even that has gotten better over the years. The dead spot in my vision has decreased to where it's just a small spot in the upper right-hand corner, so I'm very lucky. But I tell you all that just to give you an idea of the trauma that I endured that day after going 38 years with, just like I said, taking my health for granted, and then suddenly, you're on the floor. I mean, it can just happen in an instant. I was on the floor. I thought I was dying. So what happened after that is that I began to have anxiety and panic attacks. And so I want to talk a little bit about that too, about when people have anxiety or depression. If you know anyone in your life that's dealing with those issues and you're not, count yourself very blessed. I didn't understand those issues before. For me, I thought anxiety was just, you're nervous a little bit one day, or you're anxious. Well, just stop being anxious. Or I thought when my aunt talked about being depressed, that it was like a quote unquote normal person's just, a day of having the blues. It's not. I understand now what she means when she said her depression made her whole body hurt and she couldn't even get out of bed. So for me, the anxiety, it manifested itself physically. So I'm just telling you all this that just to, please give a lot of grace and patience to anyone in your life that has anxiety or depression. It's so much more than just being anxious or, having the blues. So my panic attacks started happening. I would wake up in the middle of the night and I thought I was dying. I was reliving the stroke. I started having not heart palpitations, but I would think that my heart was racing and beating out of my chest, and I was feeling out of breath. And I remember very clearly the day that I realized that it was a mental issue. I was laying in bed, having one of these episodes, having one of these attacks. And I told my husband about it. I said, Ron, feel my heart, feel my heart. It's just racing. It's just beating out of my chest. And he reached over and he put his hands here. Sorry, I've got a text. And he said, Jill, I can barely feel your heart rate. And I looked at him like, what do you mean? Something's happening. I think I'm having a heart attack. And he says, no, I can barely feel it. And that was when I first realized that maybe the symptoms that I was experiencing were not really real. There wasn't anything really wrong with my heart. It was in my head. Now, I had been prescribed Ativan, and I never took it. I was afraid of the side effects. I'd also been prescribed cholesterol meds, blood pressure meds. And again, I'm not telling anybody to do this. It's not necessarily a good idea, but I was not a good patient, and I didn't do what my doctor wanted me to do. I was just afraid of the medications. I was afraid of the side effects. I knew there had to be a better way. I just didn't know what it was. So this is kind of the state that I was in when I discovered Pure, when Heidi told me about Pure. So again, I'm telling you all this because I'm kind of being held up as this amazing weight loss story because the before and after pictures were posted. And yes, the weight loss is awesome and it's fun. But I have my life back. I don't wake up in fear. I can remember waking up, and as soon as I became conscious, it was like, oh yeah, this again. How's my body going to fail me today? What new horrors are in store for me today? And that the anxiety cycle just continued and continued every day. Now, I don't want you to think that every day was just torturous. If you go back in my Facebook feed, you'll see there were days that I was having fun and I was on the lake and I was jet skiing. So I don't want anybody to think it was just constant horror. But it's always back there. It was always in the back of my mind. And I always had those little twinges of anxiety. And to give you another example, April of 2017, I distinctly remember crying on the phone to my mother. I was standing outside Longhorn Steakhouse because I found out that she was going to leave town for a trip to Georgia to visit her family at the same time that my husband had a work trip to London. And that meant that I was going to be home alone with my 2 children, and it was going to be solely up to me to take care of them and feed them. And do everything for them. And I had gotten to the place where I was afraid to go places just with my children. Because when these anxiety attacks happened, I was useless. I just wanted to lay down and not move. And so that's why when I talk about how I would call my mom to come over and take care of my kids, that's what was going on. It's because when these attacks would happen, I couldn't do anything. So all this to say, sorry this is so long, this has all changed for me now. This detox program, the products that are in the program, when I got started in September, within days I felt better. The terrible headaches that I'd had went away. The anxiety issues went away. I stopped having panic attacks. So this completely changed my outlook on life, my ability to take care of my children, everything. So I just wanted to share all that with you so that you have more of an idea when you look at my pictures, my before and after pictures, that it's so much more than just going from a size 14 to a size 4. And that is so much fun. Don't get me wrong. It's fun to shop for clothes. It's fun to get the compliments and have all of you say how great I look and wow, you look like a new person. I just wanted to give anybody who is interested background on how I came to, how I arrived at this place and why this is so important to me and why I share this and why I'm so happy to be a part of this group. So thank you all if you've actually watched all of this. And now when we see each other in Texas, you'll know me a little more and understand a little bit more about my story and where I came from. So thank you to all of you who have commented. I'll look here in a minute. I haven't been watching the comments as I've been playing this. So thank you all if you've watched this. And I look forward to seeing you all. It's going to be so much fun to see you guys in Texas. And I love all of you. And I'm so proud to be part of this group. Bye.